Our podcast always says that we debunk myths and misinformation taught to you in school and on corporate media. I guess we have to add by drunken podcasters too. One of our wonderful loyal subscribers, John Spinoza, asked us to listen to this. Okay, so it all started last week when Dr. Asater Bayer made a comment about Stalin that was like so boring, it wasn't even worth it. He said something like Stalin helped them win. Like it was like so factually true, so boring.
It was a pretty milquetoast take. Like, I don't mean that offensively, but like he just said, I don't idolize Stalin. I have a pretty even-handed historical analysis of Stalin, and like it ends on the whole like we're not speaking German and Sieg Heiling point. So
yeah, but he went,
which is all just basic truth.
Yeah, because the funny thing is, they know, like I on a daily basis say more inflammatory things. Like Stalin didn't.
I feel the same way. Like I uphold Stalin, quote unquote, in a much more inflammatory way every day.
Yeah,
he makes like one really mild post, and like, the entire hot take industrial complex just boom.
Yes. By the way, what we have our wonderful producer Janet and my friend Nal Praxis, or Matt F, who is not the Matt C with us, and so we're here. So yeah, exactly. And I don't get what made him go viral when he. Yeah, I still don't understand why the hot take industrial complex decided to target him. But and then we got Natalia and Nova.
Oh God.
Okay, so she in 2018 she has tweeted out that her whole family was a gang of mass murderers, and then she was crying about. Oh, not to mention she's maybe related to the Tsar, and she still won't tell us which side of the war her Diadushka Pavel fought on. She never picked out how I transliterated the word Diadushka into English.
Well, she has said that her grandfather fought in the Red Army. Not fought the Red Army, fought in the Red Army, which I attributed to a positive Stalinist influence in his life.
Okay, in the Red Army, which grandfather? I bet you it was not the Cossack.
She did say it was the Cossack. Like who she also described at various points as being hounded by the government, and like tried to play him off as like a simple shop owner.
Oh my God! When she said 2 employees, and I'm like, there are no such thing as employees in Tsarist Russia. There are slaves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then the funniest one is and she's like, and the fact that her mother's family is a gang of mass murderers, and then she's like, Stalin purged us, and I'm like, thank God, and clearly not enough, because you're still here talking. And what I notice in America is that in order to be a respectable leftist, you can't read, study, learn, or digest new information. You have to you have to make up some reason to hate Stalin, and then you are not allowed to use context, history, anything. Like that's just not like
it's the genuflection to orthodoxy. Like you just have to you just have to flash your anti-communist credentials. Like it's really obnoxious. Like you're not winning any points here with anyone.
Yeah, and you're being factually inaccurate too. It's like F you factually inaccurate person. And the thing about it is that Americans are like so ill-educated about the war. Okay, we're gonna go off on a rant. Okay, without further ado, Jenna, do you have any opening statements?
No, because I'm just coming to this new. I haven't listened to the audio that you guys are going to be listening to.
So we both listened to the audio. I've looked at Tsarist Russia statistics about kulaks, different things. I've also read God knows how many, and in order to bring you this. Matt Christman, on the other hand, just got drunk and spewed out nonsense. I literally had to read. I've read like this thick books. Oh, not to mention, I punched in quite a few statistics. Learned I learned Russian. I am still learning Russian, so I have a Russian class tomorrow, which I'll probably be stoned for, which is the first time I'm ever stoned during. Oh my god, I'm already. So
He's gonna be so mad at you. No?
Yeah. The USSR had a medal for Master of Cannabis Cultivation.
What kind of cannabis cultivation?
Master
of Cannabis Cultivation.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they did hemp. Actually, the song that was from Ukraine this year was really good. I was a little nervous. But then she was like talking about how she's braiding this hemp with her daughter and her grandmother, and then they're braiding, and then getting high. So apparently, if you braid hemp a lot, something happens and you get high, and then they're laughing.
Well,
and then the men don't know.
Yeah, THC absorbs like pretty well through your skin, and like if you braid a lot of it, like you will get whacked.
Yeah.
Okay, because that's a very wholesome family song, and everyone should definitely be braiding hemp with 3 generations, right?
Yes.
Yes.
We all braid hemp.
Okay.
Yeah, I love the video for it. It was exactly like what I would think of in my head if somebody told me to picture Ukraine without the fascism.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. It's okay. So it's called Shum, which means sound, by Goa, Go_A. Listen to it. It's really good. It's a great song.
It's a great video too.
Yeah, and then the lady has this like really strange. It's not quite yodeling, but similar to yodeling. She has
it's a very traditional Eastern European folk singing voice. If you have any familiarity with like Bulgarian folk music, like it's a similar tonal thing.
So I think this is where we agreed to start, right? When he brings up Stalin. So.
It's not in this machine that rewards novelty and righteousness over everything.
There's a second here that he pauses.
And that is why I think the only response to have to this whole stupid online argument about Stalin and whether he's good or bad, the most tedious argument ever, one of them anyway, that comes up over and over again, can be answered by not even engaging with the genuinely bourgeois sentimental bullshit about number of bodies and stuff like that.
Okay, hold on. Can we pause? If we were to engage in bourgeois sentimentality, shall we say it, or am I troll inviting Matt F?
I don't know what you're going to say.
I was going to say that if there was a man who is as close to, never mind, let me not say that.
Okay, then don't say it. Always go with your gut on that one.
Yeah,
you can also just call me Now Praxis, which is my Twitter handle, NALPRAXIS.
Yeah. Okay. I hope you got back to 5,000 because I've been just getting less retweets since you haven't.
Yeah. I know. It's been driving me nuts. Like it's like there's like 2,800 people out there that I just can't seem to reconnect with since I got banned for like the most perfect bannable tweet.
You violated every algorithmic thing. You told him to like choke on your Commie Salami.
Yeah. Well, the guy was denying a genocide, and I got banned for pointing it out.
No, but that's because you used you called him Zionist, fascist, fuck.
He was! That was the genocide he was denying.
You triggered every algorithmic red flag, though. A human would not have banned you, but you've triggered. You'd also had a death threat. I hope you choke on my commie salami.
Well, no, that was the thing, though. Like, a human reviewed it and said it stands, so like they considered that a death threat.
Okay, damn it.
Like, according, yeah, exactly. According to Twitter policy, my commie salami is a deadly weapon.
Okay, so let's go further.
Okay. Yeah.
Anyone with elementary understanding of material analysis would say that's bullshit. Fucking Churchill had 6 million Bengalis on his hands, and he fucking laughed about it throughout the entire war. He thought it was basically a giant like prank from one of his disgusting English public schools. Stalin was a fucking coward, a bitch, and a loser.
No, he was not.
And that's what mattered.
Okay.
He's talking about. First off, he's talking about a dead. He's talking about a dead head of state that like he's gonna like meet him out by the flagpole at 3:15.
I know.
Like that's not an adult's analysis of a situation. Like I don't care. Like what your point is.
It's not even a comedian analysis of Stalin. Like this is just...
no. It sounds like he's in a bar and Stalin looked at him funny. He's like, "You're a coward, a bitch, and a loser."
Also, like every victim of Stalin, when you would tell them, like, "What did Stalin do to you?" It's always something like, Stalin once licked No, my favorite was definitely the guy who claimed that the Fabergé eggs was a good one.
His
family's heirlooms and put it in the museum.
Heirlooms and stuck him in a dusty museum somewhere.
It's like, that's not oppression, that's awesome. Okay, go on.
Stalin did an incredible thing in building the Soviet Union. If you want to give him credit for it, which is of course stupid.
Yes, we do want to give him credit for it.
Because another reason all this discourse is ridiculous.
Okay.
There's
like,
no power.
The head of state as a metaphorical metaphor for every other thing, like you say, Roosevelt built the highways or Obama bombed Syria. Well, we can't stop using that metaphor just because of Stalin. So we have to be consistent and consistently use that as a metaphor for everything that happened in that country while that person was the head of state, or never use it, in my opinion.
Yeah, we have to make it clear that when we say Stalin, what we are referring to is the team that the CIA admitted he captained, like collectively.
But even then, like this is a metaphor that everyone agrees that Duterte does not like go shoot random people at night. I hope. I really hope. Okay, I don't know actually. Maybe he does. I don't know. But Duterte doesn't.
I have no opinion on Duterte. Really, that's not a rabbit hole I like to go into.
No.
I just
hold on. But when somebody says Duterte is cracking down on drug dealers or whatever it is, we understand that it is something that is happening within the state of Philippines while Duterte is the president.
Yes.
So it's the same kind of metaphor. You either have to consistently use it,
I oppose U.S. imperialism in the Philippines.
They were Trump's kids in cages, but they weren't Obama's kids in cages, and they're not Biden's kids in cages. But they were Trump's kids in cages. So, I mean, it's always like how someone's looking at it. So,
well, it's a question of who the buck stops with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To use a Truman phrase. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're going to give him all the bad, you got to give him the good.
Exactly.
does not reside in the person that way. You're actually doing like mysticism to imbue one dude with the entire agency of the Soviet project. That's stupid.
I don't know if anyone does give him credit.
It's a Schrodinger Stalin.
Well, the USR, the USSR like de-Stalinized like 3 years after he died. Like, you know, it's like
we don't want to get
he gets no credit for like anything he did.
Well, and now he does, but in India he always gets credit.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's really just in the U.S., like all over the world.
Yeah, but you wouldn't. Do you guys not consider that Lenin?
It's funny because like one of my neighbors is from Africa, and there was like a mail delivery that was like wrong, and then he saw, so he came to deliver it, and then he saw the Grover Furr's book about Stalin, and he's like, in Cameron we really love Stalin, and he borrowed my book. Yeah, Stalin has like, if you're an as like Kwame Ture said about Castro is a great man, and all people who love freedom respect him. It's like it's a similar mentality that's attached to that. Like, Mandela.
Okay,
basically loved Stalin.
My point was, didn't
exactly.
Lenin have anything to do with creating this? Like, didn't he write the way of them?
Yeah.
Well, Lenin like was alive like pretty much long enough to institute the NEP, and that was about it.
Okay.
He was not in there long enough to like have the kind of impact like in the actual governance of the Soviet Union.
Unfortunately, in 1924.
Yeah.
I keep thinking of what I would do to go back in time to save the Soviet Union, and I'm thinking to stop him from having a stroke. So like making Lenin last longer and having him figure it out. Like that's always my dilemma.
That's what like Stalin yelled at Nadezdha Krupaskaya for. That Lenin allegedly like scolded him to apologize for it was because
Nadezdha, his wife, because she towards the end of his life, like he was under doctor's orders to avoid stress. Yeah,
and Nadezdha couldn't stop talking to him about politics, which got his blood pressure riled up because he was Lenin, and Stalin like
yelled at
was
her
like
over the phone
very
to stop doing that. And then Lenin wrote a letter of saying that you can't be rude to my wife, so Stalin then apologized. But then Nadezdha and Stalin patched it up after Lenin's death, and Nadezdha then wrote Nadezdha Krupaskaya Remembers, which is a good book to read. I love her, by the way. It's so adorable. She refers to him as it's so cute. So in Russian, if you call somebody Vladimir Ilyich, it's like that's like the formal way to refer to somebody, like Vladimir Ilyich. And then like when she's writing about him, she calls him like Vladimir Ilyich. But then when there are conversations, she always is like when she quotes like anything, she's like Volodya, which is the short for Vladimir. So it's kind of funny how there's a big juxtaposition between those two.
Hey.
Yeah, it's like it's the same amount of syllables.
Volodya? Vladimir?
Yeah, that's 3 syllables.
Volodya, Vladimir. So why do they call Vladimir's Volodya?
I have no idea. That's so weird.
Somebody asked. Yeah, okay. I had no idea. Volodya, Vladimir. You're right. Same number of syllables pronounced.
Yeah, that's really strange.
Well, they call George W. Bush. What was his middle name? George Walker. So W has more than Walker.
But that was to distinguish him from George H.W. Bush, which was his dad, because he was Herbert Walker Bush.
But still, Herbert Walker is less than H.W. or is the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know why, why couldn't they just have like the same 2 middle names, so I could just call him Bush the Second, and that would be.
We used to call him. We would call him Shrub. We call him Shrub because it was Bush and Shrub. That was our name because he was just a little bush. He was a shrub.
Oh God, I'm feeling nostalgic for 2004. God,
don't feel nostalgic.
All right,
nostalgic for like 19 17.
No, that was because I was 12 years old and they didn't know anything.
Him and the system that he presided over created this formation, this thing that was not capitalism, that was developmental without the profit at the heart of it. Now, it was, as capitalism had been, insanely bloody in its development.
No. Okay. Now is the time where we understand what capitalism is, because none of you seem to know. So shall we play that video that I made? This, like, it took so much hard work for me to make.
I know, she made a nice little clip.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read it for you guys, because she can't see it because I'm playing it from my computer. So.
Okay.
So here's the clip. Factory mass producers commodity. Producers commodity. Okay. Sells it at a cheap price to undercut artisans. Leads to ruin of rural population. They have nothing to sell but their labor.
That's a proletariat.
They get hired at factory to make stuff.
Essentially capitalism. Somebody in Manchester, England got permission from the Queen to set up spinning jenny, which is like an automated spinner that turns cotton, silk, wool, whatever into yarn. Before, what happened is that a human would have to go and spin. But that meant that the amount that any human was limited by what a human hand could spin.
Mm-hmm.
And that also meant that you could buy, that meant like, it's not like you could buy some cotton and then spin, and that's going to be, you're not going to expand because you're again limited by what your human hand can do. It allowed a lot of people to be artisans or hand proprietors.
It basically took away the jobs from the artisans.
No. And then, like, the factory automatically does this. Like, so what you need one person to, like, it does the job of 100 people in 1 hour. And then you can just go boom and undercut all of them and make all of them go out of business at the same time. And that's what happened in England in the 1700s. And that's kind of how you got America, too, because then the factory kept on running and there was no way that England could produce enough cotton and or wool. I don't think they produced any cotton, enough wool to keep the factory alive.
Yeah.
In fact, there's an
important feature here is they were basically running out of places to put the money, which is a key factor. Is like you have to send that money somewhere else.
And they sent it to America in order for the failed sons to go and grow cotton.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's how the slave trade started. Because because this factory in Manchester needed more and more cotton that it could spin faster and faster, so that the dude who owned the factory could do it more and more. That's how they went to Australia, because Australia became a repository for their wool. India, China, silk, India, cotton. And so within like 100 years, you had devastated all these countries. Food is one thing we cannot live with is food. So how agriculture or food essentially works is that you need, at a certain time of the year, depending on a whole bunch of factors, you need to like dig a hole deep enough and dump like seeds into it deep so that it can sprout. And it's hard work to dig enough to actually feed feed everyone. The first thing was like a horse or a cow. And what you could do is you could put a plowshare on them, and then like one person would stand behind it to push the thing down, and the other one would pull the cow or the horse. That meant that it freed up more people's labor in order to not be involved in food production. So that is where the agriculture so if you don't have agricultural equipment to make up, or horses or whatever to make up for the amount of people whose labor you pull away from the rural areas to work in the factory, you're going to have a mass starvation crisis.
Mm-hmm.
In the UK, they did that by just going to India and stealing the food or whatnot. But in Russia, what we have to remember was that it was a really, 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 really backwards third world country back then. and it was a feudal economy. So they didn't have these like tractors or even cows. In fact, the people were the cows, right, Matt?
The draft animals, rather, yeah.
Literally. We're not figurative here. We're being literal.
It was a very underdeveloped, backward, feudal country.
Okay, so let me just quickly explain how feudalism works. So officially, serfdom meant like somebody owned you, and that was officially abolished in 1861. And then the Tsar said, "Oh, I'll give you little squares of allotment land." I mean, Tsar Nikolai's dad, I forgot, Alexander. Okay. Of course, if you are a slave, you don't even own the clothes on your back because you've been a slave for all these centuries. So then, like, they don't have a shovel to dig, or like maybe a plow, whatever. So the only person who does have these things is the guy in your town who's not a slave, the guy who used to own all of you people. So then he would say, "Yes, I will lend you my plow. In exchange, you're going to have to give me 3 weeks of corvée labor, as in just free labor in these 3 weeks." And of course, growing season's very short. If he was tending on the landlord's land, the guy could not grow on his own land, and then he had to go and borrow the seeds with the landlord. And then the landlord would be like, "Okay, well, in that case, we're going to have to add an interest of another 6 weeks of free labor for me," and so on and so forth. And within 10 years, most people were owing more than 365 days of free labor a year. And that's basically how these like few landlords got very, very, very rich. Okay.
And this was the development of the quote unquote kulaki class, correct?
Yep. They were the interest bearing users. Like they'd have a cow or something.
My favorite is the like people that Wikipedia loves to call wealthy peasants.
Yeah. That's the word peasant is very tricky, and you have to be careful because sometimes they use the secondary meaning, which means rural person, and then the primary meaning, which means
they use it. They use it interchangeably with plebeian.
Exactly, and it's very tricky if you don't remember who's what. And on top of that, by the way, slavery is a very, very, very unstable institution. So how do you make somebody who owes more than 365 days of a year of a labor work when he knows no matter how much he works, he's never going to get even break even? Death squads. Basically, you murder everyone in the most gruesome way who does not do the work, and that's what the Cossacks were for, basically. And the military, and that was
Cossacks were around before then, but the Don, but that's what they became. But that's what they. Yeah, exactly. That's what they.
Mercenaries for hire, and they became jobs they got.
Yeah, they became in the Russo equivalent of the slave patrols in the antebellum South.
Yeah,
basically.
But they originally they were just mercenaries for hire, and they didn't really care. And the Tsar hired them to help fight Napoleon, and then they got lots and lots and lots of land in eastern Ukraine in the Donbass area, like thousands and thousands and thousands of acres, and yeah. But like I said, they were death squads, and they were not very picky about who hired them. Anyone with money could hire them, and a lot of them actually, it's funny, after the Bolshevik Revolution, a lot of them came to America and were hired by private security agencies. Many went to China, a lot. Unbelievable number went to Italy,
think of the Pinkertons.
Yeah, exactly. Except these people are competent. Unlike the Pinkertons, these are good death squads. These are very efficient death squads.
Didn't a billionaire up in one of the Dakotas just hire the National Guard to go down to the border?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So something like that.
Same thing.
Except imagine the National Guard's actually being competent and good at mowing down people, like our current National Guard.
Well, I wouldn't test that.
Don't imagine that.
They did not get they have not gotten a fire freely order yet. So.
Yeah,
thankfully. Okay, got it.
All right, you guys ready?
Yeah.
Wrung blood from stones, had turned peasants into mulch, because that's what you do. That's what progress in civilization is. It is pulling people away from the land. It is pulling resources away from the land. It is reducing the need for reducing mouths, basically, in the countryside so that consumption can happen in the cities.
No, see, as I mentioned, this is 100% the opposite of how capitalism works. Cities formed in order to, because factories needed a lot of workers very close by. And if we had read Conditions of the Working Class in England by Engels, you would have known. Cities formed because it was the only way you can fit all the people the factory needs as laborers.
Yeah.
That is where you build you build capital, you build an economy, you build state capacity, you build something that can...
No. Backwards. Oh, Lord.
You okay?
Yeah, he's also going backwards here. He said you build capital. No. Capital does not build until you have capitalism. Yeah. Yep. So first you build an economy, and then when you build an economy, you have the differentiation of labor. So you get the carpenter versus the doctor versus the guy who digs versus whatever other job that may or may actor, I don't know, make it up. When you have that differentiation of labor, you have people who are high up on the supply chain. Like, for example, being low on the supply chain is growing cotton. Being high is weaving or like making it into its last product. The closer it is to a consumer good, the more power you have as a person. And so that's where wealth inequality comes from. And then the state comes in to protect those with property from those without. So it was completely, historically speaking, it happened completely the opposite way. And then once the state comes to protect those with capital for property, then they can get capital, which is like money that capital is essentially a commodity that can be used in exchange for as a currency or whatever.
Yeah, capital has, sometimes it can refer to means of production, other times it can refer to accumulated currency of some kind or things that can be considered currency.
Okay, so the means of production means, for example, in villages in any feudal country, India, Russia, whatever you want, not everyone has a cow because cows take up a lot of nutrition. You can't actually have too many cows if you want to feel like it's not as easy as you think. It's a balancing problem because
cows have 4 stomachs. They eat a lot.
Yeah. But then they eat a lot, but then you also need them to plow, so you have to have the right amount of cows. Too many cows means they'll eat all your food and not have whatever. It's just a balancing act. So if you owned a cow, what you would do is you could rent it for like ridiculous amounts to these people who need your cow because they kind of have it hostage. That would be a means of production in a feudal economy. A factory is a means of production. It's something that you can like have a monopoly on in the supply chain that you can completely control. Karl Marx, of course, said that like no one should own it. It should be for all of us. And the capitalists are like, no, I like the way that I'm so close to the teat of the cow that I'm sipping so much milk from its nipple. And that's essentially the eternal argument.
Compete on the Westphalian stage of state competition that emerged in Europe in the 17th century, which is the context for all the developments of capitalism and Soviet communism and everything else. That is the train that gave birth to everything. It's that competition.
That is complete word salad.
Yeah.
Like, absolute rambling nonsense with no coherent meaning whatsoever. I listened to that section like 8 times.
Would Lenin call this phrase mongering? Is this what he means when he says phrase mongering is basically word salading? Right?
That piece is specifically like in reference to like Kautskyist nonsense after World War II or World War I. But what's the other one? A husk of like reactionary incomprehension.
Husk of sheer reactionary incomprehension. That's still my favorite Lenin insult of all time.
Yeah, it just has no respect for like, it's not even worth addressing because it's you know that speech from Billy Madison?
Yeah, exactly.
May God have mercy on your soul.
So mean anything because he doesn't. God knows, like literally meaningless. Okay.
So
no
what I think that I don't know if I'm hearing that right, what he's saying, but I have heard kind of right wingers, maybe, I don't know. I've heard people say like you couldn't have socialism if there wasn't capitalism because
that's literally the point.
He's confusing industrialization with capitalism there. So they mean industrialization as an automation. Yes, you cannot have. Oh, we can have everybody. Like we can't be that comfortable. I can't hear you, Janet.
I'm not talking.
Okay, they're kind of right but they are definitely confusing industrialization, which is the automation of production using mechanization, with a single person owning that automated production.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's in the same vein as those people that like will tell you that capitalism is when people buy things.
Oh God, that is the worst one. Yeah. Yes. Like when it's real capitalism when you have stores. That's
Yeah, exactly.
But you don't think that, like, I mean, if you take Tsarist Russia was feudalism and they went right into communism, so like you don't necessarily have to piggyback on capitalism to get socialism.
This is actually like the start of like the big tensions that he talks about Stalin and like the split with Trotsky and Bukharin as opposing factions in regard.
Wait, Matt, let's get to that point so they can hear.
Right.
Yeah, that's fair.
So communism did what capitalism did. It killed a lot of peasants. And it effectively distributed resources enough.
Hold on. Communism did not kill the peasants. Yes, capitalism did, because you know that Winston Churchill's family stole so much land that they stole 200 kilometers or God knows how many, but they had to, because it was more profitable to have sheep on your land in England. They decided, hey, I'm going to kick out all the peasants and then forcibly relocate them to this place called America and Australia, the lucky ones. And that way I can take their land to grow, to have grazing ground for sheep so that I could supply wool to the factory. So that's what it did. But communism's goal in the beginning, and all of this was so that some douchebag who was related to the king could get more money. But Russia was not England. Russia did not even have any tractors or anything until after the Bolshevik Revolution. Yeah. Russia was used for its mines. So when they say capitalism, the biggest industrial proletariat was miners in Russia. And that's because the British people needed something that was maybe, I don't know, what would they need? Whatever is in Russia, they needed it.
Sunscreen.
Yeah, whatever it is. Yes. Oh my God.
Coagulant.
Delure has given us a great title. He said, "Is this a re-education stream?" And I said, "Yes." Okay. So it is a different problem. So, and he's also doing the drill tweet where good things are bad things and bad things are good things, and there's no difference.
To leapfrog historical development stages far faster than capitalism would have allowed for, because capitalism parcels out that violence.
No, it does not. Capitalism immediately started America, and you know that the biggest thing, you know how many slaves there were? 10 million people. You know how devastating.
Yeah, capitalism. Nobody can with a straight face accuse capitalism of parceling out violence.
No. Yeah. They literally did that so these cotton mills in Manchester, fucking England, could have enough cotton. They had to get slaves. So 2 million. I think 10 million made were shipped in, and 2 million made it here. And
it looks like capitalism's parceling out the violence because all the mass slaughters never stop. It's just an endless string of mass slaughtering.
But then, yes, but then there's also the fact that you don't consider white people. India. Why did India happen? Oh, they both needed a market to sell their cheap ass cloth, and they also needed slaves to make the cotton in India.
England didn't underdevelop India; they undeveloped
India.
The Indian textile industry was outselling the British textile industry because they were closer to the most amount of people and shipping was cheaper.
And then they basically bombed all the factories, and then they cut off like people's thumbs who were factory workers so that they would
And parceling out that violence was harder for the Soviets because their empire was a multi-ethnic empire.
The reason why you need to parcel out violence in capitalism is if you are trying to forcibly suck out resources from other people without their consent on their land, or if you are forcibly trying to own them, like slavery.
Yeah, exactly. Capitalism, no go.
But he does not understand why capitalism needs violence. And so he's doing the good things are bad things are good things. There's a wise man.
And he's saying this thing like communism killed a lot of peasants, quote unquote. Well, like, what exactly is he talking about? Like, where is he in the timeline right now? Because it wasn't communism killing the peasants when 15 countries invaded Russia after the revolution.
And then like the first Juan Guaido was Kolchak, that they tried to balkanize Siberia, and he was so disgusting. I can't even tell. Like, he would like cut off his gang was so sadistic. It was just disgusting. Then there's Denikin in what they were trying to do. Like, they were trying to build the first fascist Ukrainian state with Denikin, and thank God he lost. Then unfortunately, the ones that won was Pilsudski, who was balkanized Poland. And the most cringeworthy is Baron Karl Mannerheim. Even when he fucking had the country of Finland, he had the Tsar's portrait up on his wall, and when somebody asked him, why the fuck do you have the dead Tsar's picture on your wall, when you have your own country, he would be like, he's my king. It's like that's such a virgin move, opposite of a Chad.
They do that up in Canada. They have they'd have the Queen.
I know, but the Queen's still alive. The Tsar was fucking shot, and Mannerheim had his own fucking country, and he's like, he's still my king. Okay. So they were the ones killing peasants.
Their empire was relatively homogenous, as opposed to the empires of Europe.
What the fuck?
Is that where you want to stop right there? Or do you want me to keep going?
The Soviet Union, was not relatively homogenous. Let's just, Janet prepared a slideshow of Soviet snipers, and these are just people who shot Nazis, and we'll show you how not homogenous they are.
Well, I can't do that. I can't do the slideshow. I have to add them in one at a time, so...
On my monitor, I will tell you who it is. And white Westerners do not confuse having the slave trade, participating in the transatlantic slave trade with your country having diversity.
You know what I'm gonna put them all up at once, and then you can just that would probably be better give me 1 second and then I'll just save it.
Take your time. But Westerners do not confuse those two things. And also,
Russia didn't steal humans.
And also do not.
And they didn't trick Chinese people into moving in so they could enslave them.
It's so stupid because you are so racist that every Asian person looks identical to you. Don't say that the area does not have diversity. Just kind of...
exactly. That's exactly what he's saying when he refers to the USSR as being homogenous. Is that he can't he doesn't know
so
he can't tell Central Asians apart.
Yeah, exactly. All Asians look so this is my favorite group of the guy. His name is Georgiev, And you know why he's smiling so much? How many Nazis do you think he killed? I'm gonna wait for responses from some people.
I think he killed 322.
Wait, did you Google it?
No, I didn't Google it.
Okay.
I'm gonna say.
That was a number.
232.
You said 232? What is this, like Price is Right?
Let me actually check how to pronounce his name, because it's really hard to figure out in...
Yoandri says 500,000 and Schmoopy
Okay.
says 342, which is 20 more than me. I think this is Price is Right.
Oh, okay. I was mispronouncing their name. It's actually Sirendashi Rinchovich Darjiev. Okay, yep, I was mispronouncing his name. So he killed over 297 Nazis.
Oh, that was close. That was close. That's good.
Yeah. Okay. And he's from Barai Adak, which is very close to Mongolia. And he's a Buryat, which is it's like a tribe that was like aligned with Genghis Khan way back in the day, like one of the first allies of Genghis Khan. And there's still a lot of them in Mongolia and Russia, and about 500,000 I believe, 500,000 in Russia, maybe 10,000 in China, and about 50,000 in Mongolia.
Yeah.
So he's a Buryat. So now let's go to Simeon. He's my favorite. He had 19 grandchildren when he died. Semyon Namakanov. He's very happy because you know how he started his career as a sniper? There was a Nazi who was aiming at him, and Namakanov just like grabbed his gun. 49, not 19. Okay, Namakanov just grabbed this dude's gun and then shot the fucking Nazi with it. and he trained over 150 other snipers, and he killed almost 400 Nazis. And he died in 1973. And he said after he finished working at the Red Army, he continued to go back to his oblast and do carpentry.
Oh, that's nice.
So then the guy on the right of Simeon is Maxim Alexandrovich Kasar. And Maxim Alexandra was a sniper. Oh my God, he was only 19 when he died. But in those years, he killed 322 Nazis.
What? That was the number I came up with the first one. That's so weird. Okay.
That's why I asked if you looked at it.
No, I didn't look at any of these.
Oh, okay. That's why I got confused. And where was he in? He was in, let's see, Silo.
He was born right on the Chinese border.
It says Silo Nizhny Qatar.
Yeah, it's a I forget what the exact word for it is. It's like principality or something like that. But
got it.
It's right on the Russo-Sino border.
Okay.
But I mean, you're definitely like, these are the snipers, and they're right.
Looking
at them, there you can see the
blank. I feel so embarrassed now. Okay.
Diversity.
But I did meant to explain. If you go to my podcast episode about Azerbaijan, I mentioned her name. I feel so stupid now.
So she's Azerbaijan, right? That's where she's from.
Yeah. So the point of this is that they all spoke different. Okay. So now let's show the chart where you show us all the languages they spoke, Janet.
Okay, so here's the nationalities. There we go. So we have the Russians was like almost 53%. Basically,
she was very wrong.
Yeah, he's saying there's no diversity, but the major party was only 53%. The major
exactly that sounds like a lot of diversity, because majority is not like that. And if you go to religions, you get Hindus, yes, but this actually is kind of funny, because when the Soviets first sent people to India, they actually sent Soviet Buddhists, like Russian Buddhists over, because there are some. And then there were Christians, Muslims, are there Jews, and I'm sure there are some other religions that I can't think of off the top of my head. So you had every religion covered. You have so many different languages. So what is it?
I don't know.
Besides racism.
Maybe it's because America, like, we think of, oh, we're the melting pot. We're like the only country. Like, maybe that's like part of it. Maybe because we're told we're the melting pot, that we have the diversity, that it's not really anywhere else in the world or something. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, maybe that's it, because everyone's had a melting pot for 5,000 years.
I know, for many, many years before us. But, you know.
Yeah, so like Mongolia is the most melting of all the melting pots that they've had for like thousands of years.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we call America a melting pot because, like, we reached into other people's gardens, grabbed out their people, and threw them into boiling water, like, to make our food. Yeah, because no one melts together here. Distinct colonies and, like, small, like, you know, Chinatowns and Koreatowns.
Well, you have that too. Like in India, when St. Thomas came back in the year, what God knows when, year 70, 80 or whatever, there were a group of Christians from Syria who are known as Syrian Christians. And even today, they are in Kerala and they are Syrian Christians. They have their own language, which is not Arabic, something that is in that family. Then there's the Zoroastrians who also did that, and they have their own religion. Like, we have that too, in a more organic, less genocidal way that happens over centuries.
Which were racially divided.
What?
So you could have safe, cozy social democracies in the heartland and brutal extraction at the edges. Couldn't do that in the Soviet Union. Everybody's a Slav, basically. Certainly everybody where there's any food is a Slav.
What? Where did he get that idea? It's so stupid.
I have no idea what that means.
Everybody is a Slav, and no, because majority of the languages there are only 3 Slavic languages in modern day Russia and or the Soviet Union, and I don't know. I have a deep suspicion that Belarusian is not a real language, but I could be wrong. And I know. I could be wrong. Like, I just doesn't feel real to me.
Well, I mean, if it's distinct enough to be on the list, like, you know, there you go.
But no one speaks it. Everyone in Belarus speaks Russian, so it doesn't feel real to me.
Well, yeah, I mean, but like that, you know, that could be for a lot of different reasons. Honestly, like in terms of like the philology, that's an entirely different stream.
Oh, okay, so it does exist.
All right.
Well, you know, there could be like different things, like, you know, like Danish is a language that, but like, you know, native-born Danes like are talking English to each other now, and they're like nowhere near the United States. There's a whole lot of what they call like philological reasons for like languages to develop like that. You know, some of it's imperialism, some of it's cultural. You know, people just like move around and like all that. Like, I would have to like actually like really like dig into the like language specific history to like figure it out.
All right,
it just feels so not real to me, but I could be wrong.
Well, like, I mean, it isn't like the language that they speak in Ukraine like fairly similar to Russian in some ways?
No, the main difference is it has the I. The Russian I looks like the backwards N. That's how you can tell. And CNN sometimes often just like goes to Ukraine, takes a little video, and then says, "Hi, I'm in Russia," and I'm like, "No, you're not." Because the main difference is that Ukraine has the English letter I.
Okay, so Belarusian might be like that, but because they're not filled with like fascist nationalists, they like just went with like, okay, we'll standardize into Russian.
Okay, could be.
Like, you know, that could be possible. Like, I mean, like, that is a complete pulled out of my ass shot in the dark if I had to take a guess.
Yeah. See, but when Matt F bullshits, he tells you when he's bullshitting and not to try. I do that too. So you can bullshit on air, but you have to tell people, this is not an actual fact, this is my bullshitting.
Yeah.
I will bet my bottom dollar that my absolute bullshitting is like just 10,000 times closer to the truth than his, though.